Hey everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. I have a really fun recipe for you guys today. So on the keto diet, there's lots of great breakfast foods, obviously like bacon and eggs and sausage and things like that. But one thing that is really fun every once in a while is to put together like a full breakfast like you would get from a diner. And one of the hallmark breakfast items on diner menus is hash browns. So we are gonna make some diner style hash browns today. And one vegetable that has been used often in low carb cooking because of its low carb count is daikon radish. And I've used it over the years in different various forms. And it's great for a lot of things, but it doesn't taste like a potato. It doesn't taste starchy because obviously there's not much starch in it, which is why it's low carb. It tends to taste pretty watery. So I was brainstorming ways that I could kind of get rid of that watery taste and add a little bit more of a starchy taste to try to make it as close to potatoes as possible. And I try really hard not to overhype the recipes that I make and try to tell you this tastes exactly like hash brown potatoes. My goal is just to make it taste as good as possible and as close as possible. And I think that this recipe is pretty close. It's definitely really tasty and it's definitely something that I would make multiple times. Sometimes I will try a recipe and it's fine, but it's not something that ends up on my regular cooking schedule. This is one that I would absolutely make again. So if you have never heard of a daikon radish, it's something you can find in most grocery stores, although I'm not sure about the availability in every area. But in most grocery stores around me, I can find it. And sometimes it comes whole like this with the top still on. Sometimes there's bigger chunks that are like cut into pieces. You just kind of have to know what you're looking for. And as far as macros, daikon radish, ounce for ounce, has about the same total carbs as cauliflower. So it's a whole lot closer to a vegetable like cauliflower than it is to a starchy tuber. Comparing daikon radish to potatoes, potatoes have about 5 times the amount of total carbs that the daikon radish does. So it makes a really good potato substitute on a low carb diet. I am gonna be using my salad shooter to shred this up because I'm gonna make those nice shredded potatoes for that diner style hash brown. So first thing I'm gonna do, of course, is wash this and peel it and then get it cut into chunks the right size to fit into my salad shooter. If you don't have a salad shooter, you can absolutely do this by hand with a hand grater. A quick interruption to say thank you to Element for sponsoring today's video. Element is part of my everyday routine. Supplementing with electrolytes has been so important for me in my keto journey to help me feel my best. And Element makes it really, really easy to remember to take my electrolytes because they taste so delicious. They have all kinds of fruity flavors that are really refreshing for the summertime. And then they also have chocolate salt, which is great in hot drinks as well. Also right now, Element is offering a special deal to any of my viewers. If you use my link here on the screen or down in the description, you can get a free sample pack of all 8 of their regular flavors with any order. So all you have to do is go to drinkelement.com/indigo. That's DRINKLMNT.com/indigo. Place your order and you'll get your free sample pack. Element really does make it possible for me to provide the content that I provide to you for free. So I am very grateful for their support and thank you guys so much for supporting the companies that do support my channel. So I just used half of that daikon radish because I wanted about 12 ounces of shredded radish and that's about what I ended up with here. So I have another half for another recipe another time. This is gonna make about 3 4-ounce servings is what I'm going for. So the next 3 ingredients will look familiar to you if you have used my protein breading recipe. It's the 3 ingredients that I have in my protein breading. It's perfect for giving that starchy, crunchy finish. It's perfect for chicken strips and things like that. And I had the idea of trying it on the hash browns to see if I could get that nice, crunchy, starchy type feel without actually adding any starch. So the first ingredient is pork rind crumbs, and I'm going to use these original flavor pork rind crumbs from Pork King Good, and these ones do have some spices in them. So if you are using an unflavored or unspiced pork rind crumb, I'd recommend adding a 1/4 teaspoon of each black pepper, garlic powder or granulated garlic, and onion powder or granulated onion. But this one already has both of those things in it, as well as a couple other ingredients, a couple other spices. So it's got really good spice. It also has plenty of salt in it, so I'm not adding any more salt. If you happen to have a pork rind crumb that is unsalted, which is actually unusual, most of them are already salted, but if you do have one that's unsalted, make sure to add some salt as well. So the first thing I'm going to add is 1 ounce of the pork rind crumbs. That's 28 grams. And then gelatin is one of those key ingredients for getting a nice crispy finish. I'm gonna do 1.5 teaspoons, and that is about the same as 5 grams. Then last ingredient is 20 grams or about 1/4 cup of egg white powder, egg white protein powder, dried egg whites. They're all the same thing. And if you already have my protein breading mixed up, because I do have a bulk recipe for it and I keep it in my pantry all the time, you're just going to use 55 grams of the bulk breading mix, and 55 grams is a little over 1/2 cup. So that makes this recipe even simpler if you have that already mixed up in your pantry. So now I'm just going to use my tongs to get this all tossed and just try to get those daikon radish shreds as coated as possible. And they're going to soak up all of that water so that when we try to fry them, we actually get a crispy browned like outside edging rather than like a watery steamed vegetable. And that's definitely going to be a positive for us. So if you have a big flat top grill, this would be perfect to make on a flat top grill along with your fried eggs and bacon and sausage and whatever else you're making for your full breakfast. I'm just going to go ahead and do it in my skillet on the stove for simplicity today. I have my pan heating up at medium-high heat. I will probably turn it down to about medium when it gets all the way heated up. With potatoes, if you're frying potatoes, you want a really high heat because it takes a while for them to get really brown and crispy. With the egg white powder and different things in this one, you're going to have the temperature a little lower than you're used to if you're used to frying potatoes. For the fat, I'm going to be using bacon fat, about 3 tablespoons I'm going to put into my pan here. And these are going to be like diner style, greasy spoon style hash browns. So I'm just going to let the pan heat up. I want it to be just barely to the smoking point before I add in my hash browns. I don't want it to be heavily smoking. I don't want it too hot, but you don't want to put the hash browns in cold oil either. I'm starting to see some smoke come off of there. I'm turning my heat down to medium, and then I am going to add in my hash browns. Now I'm going to do pretty thin little hash brown cakes. I tried a few different ways, and what I found was the best result was like a very thin layer of the hash browns, because the best part of these is the crispy outside. I tried using this technique for some like thicker potato cakes, and I found that the inside texture just wasn't as nice as that crispy outside texture. So I am just doing like a thin hash brown cake. And if you do want to do like the diner style where it's like a folded over like big hash brown, you totally could like connect all of these. I just think it's going to be easier to flip and everything if I have these little mini hash brown cakes. I had the idea that this technique might work for like a tater tot also, but like I said, I didn't love the inside texture, so it didn't quite work out the way I was hoping for that. Maybe I'll try to work on some tweaks for like a thicker potato cake. But for now, I'm just really happy to share the thin and crispy hash browns because they were really, really delicious and so nice under like a runny egg with some bacon on the side. Oh, so good. I turned the heat up just a little bit above medium again because they weren't getting as brown and crispy as quickly as I thought they could. So just a hair above medium. Okay, there is my plate of finished hash browns. And so I'm saying that this is about 3 servings, pretty generous size servings. I made 11 little cakes. I was shooting for 12 because I thought 4 little cakes per serving would be a great round number, but it didn't quite work out. So about 4 cakes make a serving. So you can see the edges here are nice and crispy, and they keep their crisp pretty well. You know, these have been sitting here for a little bit because this is some of the first couple of batches that I made, and they're still crispy, which is fantastic. Another tip I have is that these reheat really well in the air fryer. I have not tried cooking them all the way in the air fryer. I expect that would work pretty good. You just want to spray them pretty heavily with some kind of a spray oil, but I did try reheating them in the air fryer and it was fantastic. So as far as macros on these, I just calculated it while I was cooking, and carbs in this entire recipe, total carbs 15, because 13 come from the daikon radish and some of that is fiber. So if you count net carbs, it's even less. And then 2 grams of carbs come from the egg white powder. So 15 total carbs for this entire recipe. So if you're doing 3 servings, that's 5 total carbs per recipe. And for the whole recipe, 36 grams of protein. So more than double protein to carbohydrates. I can't really tell you how much fat is in here because I don't know how much got absorbed in the frying process. I probably used 5 or 6 tablespoons of bacon grease as I was cooking, and I maybe have 1 tablespoon left in the pan. So I'd say 4 or 5 tablespoons for the whole recipe. So it's a hefty amount of fat as well, but I love the added protein. So this changed the daikon radish from just a vegetable side to a primarily protein and fat side with a little bit of vegetable thrown in. So now that I have these all made and they're crispy and fresh, I need to cook some eggs, maybe cook some bacon, see if I have some sausage I could cook, and make a big full breakfast plate. All right, there are my hash browns on my full keto breakfast plate. I did want to let you know a couple of substitution options. If you have the Carnivore Crisps meat flour, I think probably chicken flour would be the best choice, but it would work in place of pork rinds. So if you do not eat pork, that would be a great substitution. There's also lots of recipes to make your own chicken flour. If the Carnivore Crisps one is not in your budget, that is an option. Also, if you have whole egg powder, that should work just fine in place of the egg white powder. I did an experiment where I made my protein breading with the whole egg powder in place of the egg white powder, and it worked great. And there you have it. Thanks so much for hanging out in the kitchen with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Let me know if you do try it and what you think, and I will see you again in the next video.